Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Welcome
Ladies.
back. How is everyone doing? Where are you guys coming from today?
I am so tired right now because, Christine and I were just in Germany, right? So I'm jet lagged. I keep getting so tired at like anywhere between like 5 p.m. to like 8 p.m. I start to just get really sleepy. And then I wake up at like 4 or 5 a.m. But it was good because I woke up
Oh,
early enough to get a nice run in this morning in the rain, which was very like main character energy. So that was nice.
when did you guys get back?
We got back late on Saturday night, and it was the longest flight of our lives.
So long. I erased that from my memory because it was just so long and I don't ever want to remember it.
It wasn't even, there wasn't anything bad about it. We were just, I think, just so tired from the week of travel. And then the way back home from Europe is a little longer, I think. I think you've got
Yeah.
like headwinds on the way back. I don't know. Anyway, Megan, weren't you just traveling also?
Yeah, I was in Hawaii. I was in Kauai. It was my first time. Have you guys been to Kauai? Mm-mm.
I've
How
never
is
even
it?
been to Hawaii.
Really?
Hmm.
Oh yeah, no, that was Dane. Dane had gone pretty
Hmm.
recently, right?
Hmm.
Well, we should go. I'm so down. We
Samcha
should.
retreat.
On the beach. We can record on the beach, like seagulls in the background. Actually, do they have seagulls? I don't remember seeing seagulls. There's a lot of tropical birds, but I don't remember seeing seagulls. But yeah, it was really nice, super relaxing. You can't really tell, but I got really dark, which is like
I'm trying to
because
like look
in
closer.
Seattle, like my
Oh wow.
leg, in Seattle, I'm like pale. I'm the color of my AirPod case. It's like crazy. So now I'm all golden and tan, and I'm hoping that it lasts a little bit longer so that
You
I
should
can
have
pretend
a
I'm on the beach.
you got your
Okay.
vitamin D fix
Yeah. Speaking
Speaking
of
for
of
vitamin
D,
D,
we can go into that topic later. But let's first talk about what we're eating and drinking today. Wait, why does that sound so stupid?
what we're let's first talk about what we're eating and drinking today.
All right. Anyways, okay, so what are you two drinking and eating today?
I can go. So I am drinking a white yuzu ale. Doesn't that sound so good?
Ooh.
Is that the one
I
with the
just,
owl on the bottle?
no, it's the one with the little mountain.
Mmm.
It's my
How
first
does
time
it
trying
taste?
it. It's really good. It's like very turbid. We all know we love a good turbid drink. So there's like, I guess it's yuzu floating around. It says white yuzu ale brewed with spice, taste fruity and slightly sweet. It's
Ooh.
very good.
For all the listeners out there who don't have drinking vocabulary, what does turbid mean?
Well, turbid just means it's not clear. So there's things that are floating
Mm.
within the drink. So, like, you would maybe consider this is a bad example, but like milk is turbid because it's not clear. And there's, I guess,
Oh.
like proteins floating in it. But that's not the
Mm.
best example. I would use more of like, if you go to a restaurant and someone orders a natural wine and it looks like there's like literal shit floating inside of
Like
it.
sediment.
That's, yeah, like sediment. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. That's a lot more refined. But yeah,
Shit.
when you see, yeah, when you
Floating
see the
shit.
sediment, the sediment, it makes it really turbid. So that's what that is.
Ooh,
Oh,
I learned
and
something
I'm
new.
having, what is this? Ujingo, and I'm just dipping it in like straight gochujang because that's just what I had.
Yum.
Speaking of kochu,
Oh, today's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
exactly. I'm having some bourbon whiskey, Russell's Reserve Kentucky
Mm.
Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Um, yeah, that's just kind of all I have. But I'm having it with a huge a big ol' ice cube, and I am having some flamin' hot Doritos.
Oh, I want some.
Yum.
I want
Yeah.
Where
some.
did you find Flamin' Hot Doritos in New York?
I have no idea because I had a friend who stayed at my place while I was in Germany, and then she bought it for me. I guess because she ate my chips, which she was welcome to, but I think she was like replenishing it, and she bought these flamin' hot nacho cheese Doritos.
Oh,
Damn. She knew what's up.
that looks really good.
What about you, Christine?
I am drinking this white wine. It's from
Ooh.
Italy,
Oh,
Villa
what a
Villa
cute
Via
bottle.
Farina. I found it in my fridge. I think Shannon brought it. Shannon is one of our friends. She came over for like pre-dinner drinks, and I haven't opened this, so I was like, I'll drink that today. Down. And then for snacks, I'm actually having dinner right now, so I'm having a little bit of kimbap, and
Yum.
that's I'm not going to eat too much of it because then I won't be able to talk. So
Put
I'll
all the
be
rice in your
snacking
brain.
on.
Speaking of not being able to talk with things in your mouth,
Yeah, speaking of not being able to talk with things in my mouth, Megan, would you like to introduce the topic for today?
actually, before we talk about our topic today, oh God, we're all over the place. I'm dying. Okay, well, just a quick reminder of the structure of the podcast. Samcha, as you know, means third round. Our conversation today will have 3 rounds, and we'll go deeper and deeper and deeper as we go through. Um,
Speaking of going deeper,
I know.
dead.
Oh God. Okay, and then we'll be drinking and then we'll be drinking throughout, of course. So today's topic, if you haven't already guessed, is about penis. I'm just kidding. It's titled penis, but it's a conversation around like sex and dating and all the fun and juiciness that ensues with that. And this episode is a little bit special because in round 3 in samcha, we are going to look at some listener submissions, some stories, and some questions.
And it's also special because this is our season 1 finale. Oh my
Already.
God. So, when we planned out this podcast, we decided to do multiple seasons of about 5 episodes each, just to be realistic for our schedules. But don't worry, we have a whole list of other topics that we want to cover in the next season and beyond. So, make sure to follow us on social media at samcha podcast for updates on when season 2 will come out. With that, let's head into 일차 round 1. Cheers, everyone. With our drinks.
Cheers.
Question to kick us off is, did your parents ever give you the sex talk? And if they did, what was that like? And if they didn't, then how exactly did you learn? Well, my parents did not give me the sex talk. I don't know if Megan or Christine, if either of yours did.
No, I didn't get the sex
No.
talk either. I
None
think
of
That's
it
like
us
was like,
did.
super awkward and
yeah.
uncommon in like Asian households. Like we don't even talk about our feelings. Like
Yeah, let alone.
bedroom.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, my parents never, like, it was always kind of glossed over, and I probably learned at school or through
Yeah.
movies or something like,
Yeah.
wait, that came off weird. Like, I
What kind of
started watching
movies?
porn.
No, but I mean, okay, but well, there's like two things. There's like you could learn about sex through movies and media and stuff, but also like you learn what a sex talk is through movies because we never got a sex talk, but then we've seen it in, I don't know, commercials, movies, TV shows where kids are getting the sex talk, which is
It seems
interesting.
like a very like American thing, like an American household kind of thing, like to have with your parents. But
Hmm.
in like a Korean American household, like in the 2000s, like that's very uncommon. So,
Yeah, I think the only way I learned like biologically, like how things work was through school. And I remember they had like a day in like fifth grade where they separated the boys and the girls, and then the girls watched a video about like your period and
Yeah.
what all that is. So I remember that. And I also remember we had to watch like a video of a woman giving birth or something in like seventh grade. Did you guys have
Yes.
to watch that?
Fun fact, my parents, for school, they had to have the parents sign a waiver to acknowledge to the parents that your kids are going to be taking, or like your kids are going to have a few hours dedicated to this topic. My mom did not sign that form. So I sat outside while everyone was getting
Oh my
like the
God.
rundown of like sex ed. And I was like doing crossword puzzles. They had like a little activity book. And I sat in the
Oh
hallway
my
doing
God.
that.
That's so funny. So when did you like have any sort of sex ed in school?
I did not until high school in health and
Because we
Mm,
had to
lifestyle.
do, yeah, health and life
Yeah,
skills, I remember.
yeah.
yeah. Megan, what about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I definitely remember like random videos. I think I do remember them splitting us up. But what I do remember is that it wasn't always like it was always more like fear based. And they didn't teach, like they didn't teach you.
Dare for sex?
Yeah, it was like Dare for Sex, where like it's like fear based, and they're like you're gonna
Abstinence.
die if you do drugs. Yeah, like when they teach you abstinence, and it's like guys, it's not gonna work. Like
I'm trying to look up the title of the movie that it's like there's like the title that everybody watches, right? It's like there's a name for that movie and it's like The Beauty of Life or something. Um,
Probably, yeah.
anyways,
yeah.
side note, I can't find it
Anyway,
right now, but
yeah.
you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I don't think I remember it being like super accurate from,
Yeah.
obviously in hindsight, yeah.
Okay, so our parents did not give us the sex talk, but if you become parents in the future, what are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna give a sex talk?
A
Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah. What
Like
age do you think
when?
is appropriate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would probably have to do a little more research on what age. I'm sure someone's, figured it out online.
Hmm.
But I definitely want to give it so that like maybe like a little bit earlier on, just so that they know that I am a resource
Hmm.
for them instead of, like keeping hush hush and not telling mom or not approaching mom if they have questions. They're probably not going to be asking mom questions, right, about sex, but like at least they know that like they can come to me. So I think that's maybe why I would start early. But again, I don't know what that age would be.
I saw a TikTok where the parent like was just like asking the child some questions of like stuff that the parent had taught them about like consent and like stuff like that. So I feel like you can start with like those kind of topics earlier and then like
Right, right.
build on it as they get older, and add in more around like actual sex. But yeah, so maybe it's more of like a cascaded like approach or something like that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, it's not just about here's a penis and here's a vagina, and if this is, like, it's not that. It's more just exactly like maybe a conversation around consent and what that means, and then like it goes into something much
Hmm.
deeper or
Hmm.
something more surface level.
I don't know when I learned about the idea of sex. I'm just trying to think like trying to go as like far back in my memory as possible. I know that for some people they like realized like their own sexuality through like watching Little Mermaid um
Lion King.
or Lion King or Titanic. And
Titan.
so
I was gonna say, who was your sexual awakening?
Titanic,
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
Titanic
Leonardo
for
Oh no, no,
sure.
no,
DiCaprio.
Armageddon. It was Armageddon. It was
Oh.
the like animal cracker
Mm,
scene.
Mm.
But I'd like when I like watch movies or these like topics come up with my children, I think that like I'd hope that I would have like an open enough relationship with them for them to ask questions of like what is this feeling or identifying what they're processing and them being like unashamed about it.
Hmm.
So whenever it comes up like naturally, that's like my approach of like that's when we'll have the conversation.
Mm.
But I guess like we'll see when that happens, like when we do have children, how early
Yeah.
that is. But for me, it was like, I don't know, fifth grade, sixth grade.
Yeah, because like the parent
Yeah.
really sets the tone of like how you feel about it. And I
Mhm.
think this goes nicely into the next round. But like if as a parent you're always like covering your kid's eyes or like always like obviously like to an extent like you should maybe like not show them certain things, but then that creates this like fear kind of mentality, and then they don't want to go to mom for X, Y, and Z, you know? So I guess it, yeah, is really up to the parent to set the tone around it in either
Yeah,
direction.
definitely. Yeah.
100%.
Well, so on that note, let's go into Icha. Cheers,
Icha.
everyone.
Cheers.
For Icha, we wanted to talk about, you know, if we grew up with shame around sexuality, whether it's as a young girl or a woman or being Asian, since it's a common experience that we don't talk about sex in our households. So yeah, so let's start there.
It's kind of interesting for me. I maybe should have processed this before I brought it up, but in middle school, high school, I had a lot of male friends that I was very close to. There were like, you know, a few girls as well, but I think the majority of the group were guys. And so that kind of meant that it was kind of cool in certain ways because they're all guys, and I'm generalizing here, but like a lot of guys are a little bit more open with like talking about dicks and like vaginas and whatever. And so like I was kind of thrown into that. And so I didn't have to be so hush hush about certain things. Like I kind of had the freedom to be myself or like to express certain things. But then I guess like as I was growing up, and like maybe more like later half of high school into like college, that's when, you know, like women always get like slut shamed, or they get kind of like there's a little bit more pressure around women. And so then at that point, I think it was more just trying to be more PC about things. But yeah, I feel like I've kind of had both experiences where, yeah, just growing up, like I could be myself, but then also just live being a woman in this society, like you kind of have to be quote unquote careful, to not be slut shamed as you get older.
Ooh. You
I just I just talked about like so many different themes. Okay.
uh did you have these like conversations with your parents at all? Like I know that like you mentioned that you had these like open conversations with your friends and your guy friends, but within like the walls of like your home with your parents, did you like bring up any of these topics with them, or was it usually just like removed from all topics and discussion in your household?
I mean, there's a distinct difference between like mom and dad, right? So like dad,
Oh,
could not, couldn't really speak to him about anything. With mom, I don't think I've like explicitly talked to her about, you know, situations until maybe I was like in college or older. But like, you know, in high school or even like beginning of college, I wasn't necessarily asking questions about certain things, but it was more just maybe sharing about certain things that I've heard or certain things that I've experienced and kind of sharing it with my mom, and maybe getting her take on it or things like that. But it wasn't necessarily like a question because I felt too shy to be like, where does the dick go? I'm just kidding. Oh God,
oh my
are we
God.
12-year-old boys? Like, why cannot? I
I
feel like I've seen
know.
like boobs for the first time. I can't stop laughing.
I feel like for me, it was only recently or more recently that I felt more comfortable opening up like with my friends. Like family is still, I think,
Mm.
like another thing for me in terms of like sex and those conversations. Now that I'm married, it's like more just babies, I guess, is like the topic, which, you know, sex equals can equal babies. But yeah, it's only been more in like recent years that I've been much more comfortable talking about sex and all of that with my close friends. So yeah, but I think just for most of my life, it was a topic that was very avoided, even with like close girlfriends. It's just like something I never really brought up. And I don't really know like where that comes from. Is that what you're going to ask or?
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna ask, like, do you think it's because you kind of felt that pressure of like, women need to be of a certain way, or like purity is a big thing or whatnot. Do you feel like it came from there, or was it just innately like you just didn't feel like sharing?
I think it's probably a mix of both. Like there is the whole like narrative of like saving yourself before marriage and like all of that. And so with that comes like just not talking about that kind of thing. But then I think it's also partly my personality too of like being pretty private. And I talked about it in a previous episode that I'm a quite a private person, even though I have a YouTube channel. So I think it's like a mix of those things.
I'm glad you get to talk about it now. Like we're making a
Yeah,
whole podcast
I
episode.
know.
I mean, now that you're married, it's all, 'cause you gotta come out guns a blazing.
Oh my God. That's an interesting phenomenon I've observed is like women in the church like getting married and then all they talk about is like birth control and
Mm,
sex. Like
Repression.
I haven't actually experienced it myself firsthand, but I've heard of it happening like through secondhand accounts. But yeah, it's that like it's that repressed like thing, which I think goes back to like early exposure and conversation, you know?
I can totally relate to that. So like to your original question around like shame and sexuality, like it should be pretty obvious that like I grew up in a Christian household. Like both my parents, like all my life, we went to church. And so with that came the narrative of like save yourself for marriage. It is a sin to have sex before you get married. So I had this very unique experience in high school where so like there is this like ritual where seniors before they go to or college, there is this thing that you can sign up for where it's like I will save myself for marriage, like, and have this like commitment to it,
It's like a
and
contract.
you get a
like a
purity ring out of it. So so I think it's like a way for parents to like maybe monitor their children of like did they do it or did they not? And then
Oh
there's
no.
this whole like thing where if you did lose your if you did have sex before you like joined or like participated in this ritual, you can reclaim your virginity
I'm dead.
Born
because
again.
all sins can be forgiven, right? So like that would be a separate group, but like they would
The fact
separate.
that they separated you out.
So
What in the
crazy.
world?
It was a very, now that I think about it, it was a very interesting experience that I had around like, it's like pressure around like maintaining your virginity. And I took this ring to college and then I lost it. Like, even before I like, lost my virginity, I lost my ring.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh.
I'm being very open right now. So I came back
Kathy,
home.
close your ears. Kathy, close your ears.
No. So
Kathy.
this is the part where like I overcame my shame. So, um, I was in the car. I went home for winter break. I lost my ring. I did not lose my virginity. And my mom's like, "Where's your ring?" And I was like, "I literally lost it, but I'm still like, don't worry." And so I think that that was like the like opening of like my mom like wondering, did she do it or did she not? Like, is she lying to me or is she not? And so eventually over time, like my mom and I became very close and realistic with each other. And my sister, as I mentioned in previous episodes, has been like the intermediary between me and my mom. And so now, like, I think that I, when I reflect on that experience, I felt that there was like this pressure from my mom to maintain this like level of purity. But now that I have these open conversations with her, and we've been able to be transparent in like all of our not I mean like not my mom, but like my
All of
sister
your
and I.
activities.
I don't want to know what's going on in my mom's world. No, thank you.
Hey,
But my
Kathy
sister
has needs too.
Yeah, what would Kathy do?
but I don't want to know. Like, but my sister and I will like have these conversations, like, and my mom's like listening, and so I think that like openness and like transparency with like my mom has like opened and allowed me to overcome the shame that was like put on me before. Is like, and my mom knows that like I'm an adult now, and I don't necessarily have that shame anymore. Because I can be open about it with my mom and my sister, and we can laugh about it and make jokes and talk about funny things related to this topic.
Yeah, like she
Oh,
broke the
this is
wall by like
Yeah.
she broke the wall down
yes.
by saying like, "Hey, where's your ring?" Because does that mean that you had sex?
Right,
She
right.
opened it, you know? Wait, I wanted to ask, is Chris, and you don't have to share this, Christine. This is also off.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like a story about underwear with your mom too? How like she
Oh,
was like,
yes.
if you want to share it, it's really funny.
Yeah. So another thing that like came up, or like another indicator that my mom was like, I want to talk about this with you, is like we went shopping and I had more. My mom's like 팬티 관심 왜 이렇게 많이 써? Like I and that basically means like why do you put so much effort into picking out your underwear? Um, and so I think like when my mom said that, she's like, if you put in an effort or like you care about what your underwear looks like, someone's obviously looking at it. So
Smart Kathy.
that was
Smart,
like
Kathy,
smart Kathy.
Kathy.
Detective Kathy. And so I think that that was just like one of those moments where my mom was just like pointing fun at me of like some kind of behavior that I had, but she wanted to talk about it, but in like a joking, like calling me out kind of way. So um, that was another little like memory that I had like back in the day when it was very like ambiguous about whether or not like which line I or like which side I was on.
Well,
I
that's
love
actually
it.
really nice. That's really nice of her because, like, obviously, there's like the serious, like, they sit you down and like have a chat, and then there's like the complete opposite where like they just never talk about it. And I feel like Kathy kind of did the right thing of going kind of in the middle to like still be interested or like still like not poke fun, but like be light, right, in the topic and like talk to you about it, but then also yeah, just kind of give you an opening to share or talk to her about things. That's funny.
Did you
Oh,
two ever have
Kathy.
like a moment where like your mom recognized that like you are sexually active or
You
like
you just
yeah?
reminded me of like so I get my vagina waxed, right? Like so when I started doing that, my mom was like, "Isn't it so painful? Like why are you doing it?" And I was like, "Mom, why would I go through this pain without any gain?" So I was like, "Woman." And she was like, "Oh my God, please be careful."
I love
So like
that.
that was a kind of
Careful.
fun that was a fun experience. But I was like a little bit older, so I think like, she can't really say much.
Yeah, true.
Did you have
I
something like that?
I didn't have anything like that growing up at all. I think it was only literally like once I got married that my mom more acknowledged that, kind of thing. So like two instances that come to mind was like just what was it? Our wedding day, I think. She just like really wanted to make sure we like, had our own private room, like space. Oh, we got married at my parents' house in the backyard
Mm,
because it was during COVID.
mhm.
So just like stuff like that. And then I remember she asked me like, "Oh, control하고 있지?" which means like control, I guess like
You're
birth control. I never even heard about like the word, how you would say birth control in Korean. But she just referred to it as control, like control하고 있지. You're like you're controlling, right? Like the
You're
birth
in
control.
control, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I remember she asked that too at one point.
Wasn't there also that like time that your mom slept over when she was in New
Oh my
York?
God. Oh, I completely forgot about that. So my mom visited me in New York last year, and then Dane was like in LA, so it was like just me and my mom at the apartment. And then next to my bed, like on the nightstand, I had like a little lube thing. It's like a pump lube, like very handy because it's a pump versus like the little, what do you call like the flip top like kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, but no one has time to do that. Like you just pump it, you're good to go. But it was on my like nightstand, and my mom's like, moms, they just clean things, they like touch things, reorganize. And she's like, "Oh, 이거 뭐야?" And I was like, and I just like started laughing, right? And I was like, and then she was just like, oh, and she just like started laughing as well. But like she wasn't like bashfully laughing. She was just like she literally was just like, oh, like that's really funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's like the third instance that comes to mind.
And the brand of this lube was
It was Maud, and this is not planned. This is not planned at all. I promise.
not planned, not sponsored. Um, well, actually, this is also a good time to talk about mod because we were talking about shame and sexuality. So, actually, I guess I could talk a little bit about mod as like a company. They are like a sexual wellness and health company, and they sell products like massage candles and lube and vibrators, and they're amazing. But I think the more amazing part to them is they kind of share a lot about like sexual health and of course wellness. And they have a blog called The Golden, and they deep dive into sex in your older years and kind of removing the shame about that, because when you think about older people, like you don't think about sex. But I thought that that was really cool, and obviously like my vocation is working with older people, and so it just kind of is very cool. And I actually love them so much that I work with them on my Glue Glue Gloss account. So if you guys ever want anything from Mod, I think it's getmod.com, and you can use code Megan10 for a little something extra off.
To get yourself
Yeah.
off.
Nice.
That was really good. You should
Thank
go
you,
into
thank
like
you.
right now.
Not
And yeah, and
sponsored.
check out. I know not sponsored, but call us. What
Also,
was I
can I
gonna
add one
say?
thing
Yeah.
about mod? One thing that I love is how just like normal the like design and branding is. Usually when I think of like sex things, it's like neon pink with feathers and boas and all this stuff, right? But mod is like the most aesthetic, like millennial, like or not even millennial, but it's just very it normalizes sex and like sexual wellness, and it makes it feel like an everyday product or like everyday activity. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's very in line with the Glue Gloss aesthetic. So
Yes, for
definitely check
sure.
them out. I have their candle that you can melt down into like massage oil, and
My
that
favorite.
so cool. Yeah.
So good.
All right, cheers for
Cheers. Round
samcha.
three.
Yay. And as Megan mentioned earlier, this is a special samcha, special third round, because we got a few submissions from our followers on Instagram. We asked people to share any questions they have about sex or dating, and then also any funny stories. So we have a handful, just a couple of each that we'll go through. We'll start off with questions. So the first question we have is, do women think about sex as much as men? What are your thoughts, ladies?
Yes. What is yes? What is absolutely?
I feel like it's I feel like yes, in general, it's interesting. It's just like guys are just socialized to be more comfortable to talk about it all the time. And if you think about it, like literally their penises are just out, you know? So it's like it's just in their face, it's out, but then ours is like in, you know, it's like concealed. Our sexual organs. So I feel like, do you not feel like that's part of, why
Ooh,
men
yeah.
men just like sex is just like on their mind or, externally on their mind all the time?
That's interesting. I didn't think about it that way, but that kind of makes sense. I mean, even just the way, even like the way you sit, right? Again, we're generalizing here, but like
Hmm.
how guys with penises, like balls and dicks, like sit, and then how women sit.
Yeah, we cross our
Christine's
legs. God,
face. Yeah.
like I feel like there's a correlation here, between how we
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
physically and like act physically, and then this like comfort around talking about sex. Christine looks very confused and concerned.
I'm I'm trying to read an article while I'm talking to you guys about whether or not this is true, like in a
Mm,
broader scale.
hmm.
Um,
What are your
and
findings?
so, um, one funny thing was that so while men did think about sex more often, they also thought about food and sleep more often than women as well.
Mm,
So,
Mm.
there's also like a previous study where it says that like men are reported to think about sex 19 times a day when women are reported to think about sex 10 times a day. So it's like almost two times.
mhm.
Um, but this is from like menshealth.com. So I don't know how seriously we should
Oh,
take it.
and you know what's like another factor is hormones and like menstrual cycles and
Yeah.
I saw another TikTok. I wonder how many TikToks I'll reference throughout this,
TikTok
everything.
University.
Yes, I saw another TikTok just that was just like, oh my God, like some men can just wake up feeling the exact same way every single day versus people who
Yeah.
get periods and who have the hormones from the periods. It's like one week, you're tired and moody. One week you've got like cramps and you're horny. Like one week you feel like 100%. Like we're always like up and down. So I feel like that probably
Mhm.
impacts it as well.
100%. It's a societal stuff too, where like women have to think about more than just themselves. Like they have children they have to bear and feed, and they have to think about all of the shame that goes around sex. Whereas, like for men, it's really easy and it's actually celebrated, right? Like, oh, how many people did you sleep with? Oh, how many people did you sleep with? And that's a more celebrated thing than if a woman started sharing that. It's actually not. So there's that as well. Yeah.
So the answer is yes, probably.
But
But
It depends. Like if you
yeah.
were to ask someone who is like in the heat in their like raging period cycle where they're very, very horny, they're probably thinking about sex like for all of the minutes of the day. But then after their period, they're probably not thinking about it at all, or maybe just like once a day.
Are we
So,
Mhm.
talking about ourselves here or
just like off the cuff. I'm just kidding. Yes, I am talking about myself.
Okay, so the next question we have here is how to get over heartbreak. Well, first of all, whoever submitted this, I hope you are doing okay. We're here for you.
but you know what they say, to get over someone, you have to get under
Under
someone.
someone.
Wait, so who has something to say about heartbreak? Was there any like recent events or was it just me?
I think it might be just you, unfortunately.
All right, well, I have a few things to say, but it's not comprehensive, so I'm still going through it right now. So I think in all seriousness, like yes, you can get under someone to get over someone, but one thing that I would highly recommend or highly suggest in terms of what worked for me is to just like take a deep breath and just process it. And I think that like related to this like the topic of penis and like sexual wellness, it's leading into like what your body is feeling in that moment. And I know that heartbreak sucks and it feels like your heart has been lit on fire and then like crushed and incinerated into like a billion pieces. But to start putting yourself back together, you have to breathe life into yourself. And you are the only person that can do that.
Mm.
So that's like the first thing. And I think that like prioritize like what your body is telling you to do, whether it be like take a nap or to cry it out or to go for a walk or to just, do what your body needs at that moment. Just listen to your body and engage in that. And then just turn off what everyone else like thinks or um, the noise around you. And I think that like you just have to like really remember your own truth into around like why you broke up and have that be like the grounding point of like where you build your happiness because you did break up with that person for a reason.
Mm.
So just remember that and just trust yourself in the process and just take deep breaths. And with each breath, there's going to be something else that comes along, some new experience. But just remember to breathe even though it hurts. And that is
Oh
all I
my
have to say
God.
right now.
Oh, my heart is melting. Oh,
Yeah, so you gotta breathe.
breathe.
We
Whew.
can use those sound effects for the rest of the episode.
They're kind of
That's a little. Do you remember the Britney Spears "I'm a Slave for You" song slash
Yeah.
music video? And then there's a part where she goes like,
Yeah.
and it was always so like scandalous when you're like in
Yeah.
elementary school or whenever that came out. Anyway.
back to what Christina said. It really does suck, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. But thank you for reaching out and asking, and hopefully, like in a future episode, we can dive more into like the process of healing and what like Christina and Megan have experienced as well. But we're
Hmm.
all, like human beings, and we're learning, and hopefully, there will be more to to there will be more to say in like the future episodes.
Yeah. And then speaking of like talking about relationships a bit more in future episodes, on the next question, it's at the people who have done a long distance relationship. How do you keep sexual things interesting? With a little smiley face.
Oh, long distance relationships. I thought it said long-term relationships, but
Mm-mm.
yes, that's another topic too. Long distance. Well, long distance is easy because it's like, what is it? The heart grows fonder with
Absence makes the
distance.
heart
What's
grow
the,
fonder.
thank you. Yeah.
That's not what my dad said. He
What
said
does your dad
like
say?
something about like I can't. There's like one thing of like if that person's not there, then you forget it. Like
Out
Out
of
of sight,
sight,
out of
out of
mind.
mind.
yeah.
So funny.
Oh my gosh,
I mean, both are true, I guess.
yeah, I recently turned on like one of my old phones because my friend who was staying at my place that I mentioned earlier, she lost her phone and then she ended up just like getting a new phone the next day. But I had dug up an old unlocked phone I have because I was like, oh, maybe she can like use this temporarily, blah blah blah. And then I on the phone I have an app called Couple, which I think is like no longer exists. I don't think the app exists anymore. They stopped updating it. But it was this app where like it was meant for long distance couples. And it was just like a chat interface, but then within it they had like you could put in special anniversary dates or like whatever, and it would show like countdowns. Maybe you could also put like when you would see them next. And then they had this like really cute like feature that was like thumbprint. And so if you both like open the thumbprint thing, you could like press your thumb and then feel the vibration from like the other person's thumb, like from their
That's
device.
so sexual. Oh my God.
That's Christine just turned like the cutest thing into
I
like a
know.
dirty, dirty. Oh my
But yeah,
God.
I like literally 2 days ago was like reminded about that because Dane and I
Oh,
were long distance for like 4 years out of our 8 year relationship before we got married.
damn.
Dang.
I feel like it was pretty similar for Sean and I too, for me and Sean. Obviously, we would just be texting or like using Messenger or whatever. And I remember like a few months ago, it must have been at this point, but I was just like randomly looking through my messenger because I don't really use Facebook anymore. And I was like looking through it and I was looking at our old messages and it's so cringe.
Are they
Like
sexual though?
like it's
Like,
cringe.
is
Well,
that
yeah, like the sexual stuff is like so cringe. Like I want to die, but that part isn't even bad. It's just like the way that we used to talk to each other, like trying to be all like cool and stuff. Anyway, it's so
Aw.
funny. But yeah, we definitely had like there was a lot of like phone sex, like over voice or over text happening a lot.
Like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, what else are you gonna do?
I was thinking like if you were to take your relationship today and then say that like you had to be long distance with Sean or Dane, how would you keep sexual things interesting? Maybe less cringe text?
Yeah, it maybe it would be more like straightforward.
Yeah.
Or that's actually a really good question.
I think I would cringe at myself, like trying to keep things like sexually interested, like remotely.
I think like
I would scream.
it sounds like cringy, but then I think like it's obviously like it builds to it or like you're in the mood for it. Like you can't just like suddenly go from like, hey, how was your day into like, all right, we're
Yeah.
gonna like do this like sexy stuff now. So it's very contextual for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like I mean, I think we definitely should have like a relationship episode, but like, I think it's different now. Because there's like different levels of intimacy. And it's not just like physical or it's not just one thing. Things kind of have to line up in different ways. Well, that for one. And then two is like, I think there's like a deeper level of intimacy that like I feel with Sean now versus 3 or 4 years ago. And so it's a different type of connection. So a different type of like mental connection, emotional connection leads to a different type of like physical connection. And so it's just like kind of navigating that. But I don't know how I would really answer your question about like if we had to do the same thing now that we did, 3 or 4 years ago.
Have you seen the episode of New
Yeah.
Girl where Winston sets up a whole like video call like booth to have phone sex with his girlfriend Allie because she's like away somewhere, and then he literally has like different backgrounds. He has like props and costumes. He has like an astronaut like helmet and like can put himself in space. It's like so ridiculous. And then there was like some funny gag that happened with it, but yeah, that's like what I thought of when Christine, you were like, what would you do today?
What would you
Like,
do?
I feel like technology has come a far, like a long way. Yeah. So I don't think we have like any groundbreaking advice on this question. But
But this is an idea for listeners out there to innovate. And
yes.
if there is, there's probably an idea out there to create an app for people who are doing long distance relationships to
Yeah.
stay sexually interesting to each other.
Sexually interesting. So the other thing that we asked people to submit on our Instagram was some stories. So we do have two funny little stories here. Do one of you want to read the first one?
So someone submitted this, and it says, one time I went on a Tinder date in Korea, and after drinking, I went to the bathroom. I came back, and the dude is gone, like nowhere to be found. But he paid the bill, so asterisk, asterisk, shrug.
No, it was shrug emoji.
Oh, shrug. Emoji.
Wow. Well, I mean, he had the, he paid the bill.
At least he paid the
But like
bill.
So,
courteous.
But
yeah, he had the
also,
Also
foresight to pay the bill.
rude.
but also in Korea, most places you pay the bill like at the counter, like when you're leaving. So he probably also like didn't have a choice. Like they probably like, would have caught him if
Oh,
he
And it's
was
like
just
you were
walking
in the
out.
bathroom, so they thought that like if he leaves, like both people
Hmm.
at the
He
table
must
are
be
gone.
leaving, you know?
God, I have so many
That's
questions.
awful.
That, first of all, sucks. At least he paid. Have either of you experienced anything like this similar?
I kind of did that to
No.
someone. But I communicated it. So like the issue with
Oh,
this guy
yeah,
is that he lacked the communication skills to let you know what was
exactly.
going on in his mind. So that's on him, not on you. Um, I'm so glad you did not end up with someone who has like communication issues.
Hmm.
But for me, like I went on a date with someone and it just was going downhill and I was not in a good mood. He asked me like what ice cream flavors that I liked and he picked two flavors that I did not like say that I liked. He picked the ones that he wanted and he made me share the ice cream flavors that I did not mention. Um, so I was like, this is like very off. And then he proceeded to just talking about himself and how human beings suck and all these things. So I said, I'm not like I cut him off and I said, I'm not in the mood to like be on this date right now. I'm gonna throw my ice like my melted ice cream away and then leave. So if it's not going well, you can like communicate to that person that like, you're not interested. And so I took the ice cream, I threw it away and I just walked out. Um,
Love it.
but it kind of just sucks that you like came back and this person was gone and there was like no expectation of like the date having ended.
I'm curious, like, was the date going well? I'm assuming that she or he thought that the one that went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they thought that the date was going decently. And then they left, so that was why it was more confusing too. Because like if the date was like absolute garbage, then it's like not that that excuses the behavior, obviously,
Yeah.
but like then it's like okay, whatever. But I wonder what things have been said. Ooh, to be a fly on that wall.
I'm curious, and not to give this dude any credit or anything, but it says that they were drinking. So, like, wouldn't it be hilarious if he was just like so drunk that he just like
Yeah.
was confused?
Yeah, he like forgot. He like
Yeah,
forgot he was on a date.
he's like, why am I here by myself?
Or like he had to like poop so bad. And then there's only one bathroom. And he was like, I
Mm,
can't wait. No, but
yeah.
then he would have texted her and or him or been
I think
like,
he
yeah,
just
it's
like left.
inexcusable. Yeah.
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 No, that's
It's
It
definitely,
like
sounds like an awful
baby, yeah,
experience.
immature, like small dick energy, I would say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you dodged a bullet, so
Yes.
We
good for
need
you.
strong communication skills, and people to not like to actively communicate that they want to go home. So
Yeah.
I mean, those are basics,
Hmm.
and this guy did not have it. So good for you.
Megan, do you want to read the next little story submission?
Yeah. Oh, this is funny. Okay, so this person said, my ex asked if I was down for anal, and I said, hell no. So he said, okay, then how about we just try a finger first? And I reluctantly agreed. As soon as he tried sticking it in, I yelped and was so grossed out, and that was that. No disrespect to people who like anal, but I could never. I poop out of that hole. My goodness.
I don't know why, but the use of the word yelped is just really funny to me. Like I think of like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Yorkshire Terrier. Like,
It's like
For those of you listening, you're gonna have to watch the YouTube video.
let's act this out. I'm gonna go, hey, like, are you down for anal?
Hell no.
Okay, then how about we just try a finger first?
Okay,
okay.
fine.
Okay, I'm going in.
Oh my gosh, sorry to this person who submitted their story and now we're reenacting it.
Your traumatic
Oh
experience.
goodness. Oh my goodness. So, what do we think?
Um, what do we think?
I don't know why it came out like that. Okay.
So, I mean, I think it's just different strokes for different folks. Like, people have their own preferences. Obviously, this guy has his preference, and it wasn't yours. So sometimes it just doesn't match up, and that's okay. At least you like shared that with him through your Yelp.
Well, actually, to Christine's point earlier about communication, I think this is exactly where you would be pretty explicit and say, I did not like that.
Yeah. Consent.
Is very
That's
important.
right.
Yeah. At
That's
least he
right.
asked for your consent.
Yeah, that's very true. That is very true.
I think it's good that like you were open to like hearing out your partner's preferences. I think again to like what Christina said, different strokes for different folks, but you also have your preference and you learn that that's not yours. So I think that it's good to explore new things, keep things spicy, and if it's a finger in a butthole and a Yelp, that's one experience. But it keeps things fun, but also just like know your boundaries and know that like you shouldn't feel bad about not liking that, and you just have to actively communicate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's good you tried it. Now you know.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's my like kind of philosophy. Try it and then figure out what you think about it.
And like shout out to the compromise here because like they, sounds like they said hell no. And then he said, okay, then how about just a finger? And then they reluctantly agreed. You know what I mean? So like at
It could have been
least there
something
was a
else,
compromise.
right?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
could have not been
Exactly.
a finger. It could have been
I
Yeah.
feel like we need a cheers to this
two.
person
Oh,
because like
cheers.
they went
Good
through a
job.
lot.
Yeah. Cheers. So I would say just like continue to apply that philosophy in your future relationships
Life.
or future whatever, whether it's with sex or other things, just like have that openness, but then know your boundaries.
And what you like and what you don't like.
And clear communication. Yeah.
Yes.
And that was your therapy hour with Megan, Christine, and Christina. You guys, was that the end of season
Oh my
one talking about butt stuff?
We started with braces and
Oh my God.
blowjobs. We ended with butt stuff.
I mean, kind of full circle.
Yeah.
Getting kind of emotional thinking about all this butt stuff.
You've got all this butt stuff.
So I know Christina earlier at the top of the podcast, you said that we had a list of topics and stuff that we want to talk about, and we do. But if you all have things that you want us to talk about, or you're curious about, or anything of that matter, please let us know.
Slide into our DMs.
Yes, slide into our DMs, email us, comment, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm like getting separation anxiety, like Christine was mentioning
I know.
earlier. I don't want to
Oh my
end.
God.
Are we gonna know how to
Can't.
talk to each other by season 2? Like,
I know. It's like,
But also thank you to all of our lovely listeners who took the time to just, join us in these fun, random conversations. We have really, really enjoyed doing this. I'm acting like we're never coming back. We're going to come back with season 2, so don't worry.
sometimes I joke to Christina or like during our trip that this podcast was like pure entertainment for the three of us.
Like we recently did a little pop quiz on our Instagram with like questions about our moms. I think it's like in our Instagram highlights, so you can go and revisit it. But when Christine was like making it on the plane when we were flying back from Europe, we were just like in the plane, like in the dark, giggling, like just like laughing about how like funny we are. Like we're just like it's literally we're just like serving ourselves. but it's also for our listeners. We really appreciate you all.
Oh my God, don't we need to shout out that person who got the most right
Oh
answers?
shoot. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're gonna have to do a quick
You
little
know.
calculation. All
All right,
right.
drum roll. It's a four-way tie. Shout out to at Jane LaPernia, Cloud Design LA, my sister, and Christina's husband.
They all 5 out of 6 of our mom quiz questions correct. So
But super shout out to Jane and Christine because we don't know each other personally, but you got 5 out of 6 questions right about our moms.
yeah. Yay! Congratulations.
Yay.
And come back next season. All right.
Yay.
Well,
Guys, one last cheers
yes.
for the season.
Cheers.
So much fun.
Cheers.
Woo.